So welcome to this video. My name is Alex, and in this video I'd like to talk to you about what I see is the biggest misunderstanding that people have about Christianity, which stops them gravitating towards it. Because our heart wants to gravitate towards those things where there is more light, more truth. And there is a phenomenal amount of light and truth to be found as we get to know Christ and as we open our heart to God. Phenomenal amount. Yet so many people put off the religion of Christianity because of how it's portrayed and because of what they think it is. So many people see Christianity as this, it's about being obedient. It's about doing what you're told. It's about being a good person in the eyes of your critical and judgmental father who's watching you to see if you're being a good person. But that misses the point completely about what Christianity is really about, which is about knowing God. It is absolutely crucial that we come to know God, that we build a relationship with God, because that's what's missing in our lives. Many people don't realize it, but God is the loving force of intelligence that we are all looking for. We all want a relationship with this loving force of intelligence which can communicate with us, which can protect us, which can guide us, which can give us what we need, spiritually speaking and materially speaking. It can provide for us. And we're all desperately looking for this force. It's like a young child, like a young boy, for example, who never knew his father, and is looking for this male role model, is looking for someone to show him how to be a man. And young boys do need that, Young boys, I've got 3 young boys of my own, three sons, and they need a fatherly role model so they can see what it is they're aspiring to, so they can know where they're going, so they can kind of see the blueprint for their manhood. And as children of God, if we don't have that connection, relationship with God, then we're looking for something else to give it to us. We're looking for the guidance, looking for the role model, who's going to show us how to be completely loving, completely forgiving, who's going to show us how to open our heart and just allow love to pour through us. And that's what God does. God loves us so much. And when we realize this, and when we actually perceive the truth of this isn't just a belief system. We can actually open our heart and receive God's love in its profundity and abundance. When we do this, when we open our heart and we actually feel how much God loves us, then this heals our heart and it gives us a blueprint of how we are to be with others. We are to be with others how God is with us. God is endlessly forgiving and loving. And that is how we are meant to be. We're meant to be endlessly forgiving and loving unconditionally. And when we receive that from God, when we feel what God is like, when we see his nature at work with us, as we see him interacting with us and, as we see him loving us, then that shows us, gives us a model of how to be with other people, how to be in the world. So for me, being a Christian is about being close to God. It's about being one with God, being as close as I possibly can be with God. Because God is everything we need. God is the power, the light, the energy, the joy, the healing, the love, the peace. And so we need to be as close as possible. We need to be intimate with that source of all those things, which is God. And he is always with us. He's always here in our mind, hoping that we'll open our eyes and turn our attention away from all our thoughts and turn our attention to him, actually in our mind, open our mind to his presence. And we can perceive God's presence in our mind, and we can feel his love in our heart. And without this, when we're not aware of God's presence, but we don't sense his presence in our life and we don't have a relationship with him, then we're a little bit lost. We're always looking, we're always waiting, because some part of us, deep inside here, knows that we need to reconnect to God. We need to open our eyes once more to His presence, to His reality. And so that part of us, deep inside our heart, is waiting, looking, searching, hoping, and it will never find what it needs until it turns back to God, until it stops chasing anything in the material world and turns its attention back to the spiritual realm where God lives and where God is waiting to embrace us with His love, His healing, His forgiveness. So of course many people will say, well, Christianity is about Christ, surely. And of course, but you have to understand that Christ is an embodiment of God. Christ shows us God's nature in human form. So Christ helps us to understand what God is like. And Christ, when we turn our mind and our heart to Christ, then we invite God. That's how you invite God really into the deepest chamber of your heart, is to allow God's brightest representative, which is Jesus, how to allow the light of Jesus into your heart and into your mind. And that's how you become really intimate with God. It says in the Bible, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And the only way we can totally purify our heart, the only way, is to allow the light of Christ to do the job for us. We can't purify our heart on our own. It's not possible, because the purification needs to go deep. And this is why we need the most powerful light in the universe, which is the light of Christ, which is God's light, concentrated. And that's why we need to allow that into our heart, so it can purify our heart from all its desires for other things, all its desires for the world and the fleshly desires, and all the desires for things which don't benefit us and that keep us away from God, desires for things which get us looking in the wrong direction, get us kind of wanting things that separate us from God. And so that's why we need the light of Christ to purify our heart, because then we are blessed, because we will see God. When our heart is pure, then God can fully take up residence there. And then we can have the most intimate relationship with God. Then we can almost be inseparable from God. There is no barrier. There's nothing that's making us want something else. There's nothing making us turn away. Because it's all about desire. You have to understand that what we desire is what we bring into our life, and it's what we pursue. Our desire is the most strong force there is in this life. Our human desire. That which we want. When we really want something, then nothing stops us from getting it when we really want it. So if we make it our top desire that we want to be present to God, we want to know God intimately, we want to know Him as well as we can. If that's our top desire, if that's what we really want, then that will be in our heart. That desire will take root in our heart, and it'll push out all the other desires, because all the other desires take us away from that. All the other desires take us away from knowing God, because they're desires for things of the world, and they put a barrier between us and God. So when we want only to be one with God and to know Him as closely as we possibly can, then that's what purifies our heart. And that's the purpose of Jesus. Jesus purifies our heart, because nothing else can do the job. Only the light of Jesus Christ can purify our heart, so that we are capable of seeing God, of being with God, of being in God's presence, of embodying God, of allowing God to take full possession of our mind, our heart, our body, our thoughts, giving ourselves completely to God. This is the most rewarding, beautiful, and intelligent thing we can do. Give ourselves fully to God. And that's why we've been made. That's what this body is for. That's what this mind, this heart, this body, this is what we've been designed for, is to be a vehicle for God, for God's love in this world. And to enjoy that purpose, enjoy being a vehicle for God and a vehicle for God's love. So So I hope that's clear. I hope I've explained what I was trying to explain, which is that knowing God is number one. Top of the list is knowing God, of being as close to God as we can, of understanding what God is, not conceptually, but experientially, understanding God, being one with Him, being close to Him, and allowing Him to purify our heart through the light of Christ, through His Son, the light of Christ. And then we will be blessed and we will be able to see God in His full glory and beauty. Thank you for watching this video. I wish you well and God bless you.